The 80s and 90s were really interesting times in the world of animation. I've watched a couple of documentaries about it, and basically both animators and networks adopted the old spaghetti model of just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. So there were a lot of weird cartoons just floating around, and of course when something did stick, it spawned 1,000 copycats trying to recreate that magic formula. Since I loved Ninja Turtles as a kid, I'm very intrigued by all of the cartoons that exist specifically because of the success of the Ninja Turtles comic books and cartoon series. I like to refer to this genre as anthropomorphic badass manimals. I've talked about the Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa, and I've talked about the Battletoads, but today it's time to talk about Street Sharks. As a child, Street Sharks would have been deeply upsetting, but as an adult, I'm a little bit obsessed with it. Street Sharks ran for 40 episodes from September 1994 to May 1997. The cartoon was basically made to sell toys, you know, the old Hot Wheels and He-Man strategy.
He-Man! Skeletor is his enemy.
Despite being a 40-episode commercial, this show is a rare work of art. The plot centers around four brothers whose father, Dr. Bolton, is a scientist. But not just any scientist, he's a genetic researcher. And then one day, something goes horribly wrong.
Evil Dr. Paranoid changed four innocent brothers into huge creatures.
And we'll walk through the plot of the first episode, but first, let's talk about the boys. John Bolton is the oldest, so he is the de facto leader.
He's the leader of the Street Sharks.
He's an inventor and an all-around cool guy with a motorcycle. He gets turned into a great white shark and goes by the new name Ripster. Bobby Bolton is basically the 90s skater boy of the bunch. He's always wearing rollerblades, and he gets turned into a tiger shark and goes by the new name Streaks. Clint Bolton is also there, and he gets turned into a hammerhead shark and goes by the new name Jab. And Coop Bolton is the youngest brother. He gets turned into a whale shark named Slamoo. So, Coop and Slamoo, neither of his names is good. We can't forget about the secret fifth brother, Michael Bolton. The first episode, Sharkbait, is our introduction to the sharks and the premise for their transformation and subsequent adventures. The theme song is pretty good. But it isn't great. I mean, compared to other 90s cartoon theme songs, like the bar is set really high. However, this part,
half shark, half man, fighting evil, that's the plan. Street Sharks
lives in my brain now. I went to 4 different weird hodgepodge stores recently that had old collectibles, and every time I saw a Street Sharks action figure, I involuntarily began singing that part of the theme song. This is not a bit, that is real, and I should not be allowed in public. The episode opens with Dr. Robert Bolton breaking into some sort of scientific research facility. There's a lot of grunting. Meanwhile, a bald villain with a metal plate eye patch is just talking to himself.
He dares to say no to me, his mentor, his idol. Pitiful, stupid loser.
Pitiful, stupid loser. He sounds like Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory.
You're so stupid! Stupid, stupid, stupid!
This is Dr. Paradigm, and he needs a cat. He doesn't have a cat, and if he did have a cat, he would probably experiment on it, but something about this scene just feels like he needs a cat.
Wake up! I have a surprise for you.
Who are you talking to? There's no one there. The fish are awake.
Key strand from the swordfish, one from the lobster, combined with man's own, and it begins.
He's mixing some kind of DNA, and at first I was like, ooh, swordfish and lobster, tasty. But then he added human DNA, and I was like, oh, that's not so good.
A relentless conqueror, a ruthless leader. Genghis Khan.
The DNA is potentially from Genghis Khan, who is a real historical figure, and a pirate named Captain Blood.
A lawless pirate, Captain Blood.
I thought this was a name that the writer just made up on the spot, but no, Captain Blood is a character from a 1922 novel that was made into a movie released in 1935, and apparently the movie was very popular at the time. A clip of it would later appear in The Goonies. But Captain Blood was inspired by a real man named Thomas Blood, and yes, I went down an internet rabbit hole reading about the time Thomas Blood tried to steal the crown jewels of England. Anyway, science is happening.
Recombining nicely.
Dr. Bolton tries to intervene, but they end up having a scuffle. Can't stop science. How big is that lobster? I thought it was initially supposed to start as a normal-sized lobster, but it looks huge. And then the lobster does get bigger from the science. I'm going to say something now that is potentially controversial. Dr. Robert Bolton is, scientifically speaking, hot. He is a DILF. He climbed that fence like it was nothing. He's seriously built. He's well dressed. He's a genetic researcher, so you know he's gainfully employed. He's got great hair. He's got a well-groomed beard. He's got glasses. It's just the whole package. The science fails to science properly, but it gives Paradigm an idea, and he injects Robert with the gene-altering serum. We don't see what happens to Robert, but he apparently busts through a door, leaving behind his clothes and watch. The lobster and swordfish turned into this. Slobster and Slash.
Not just yet, friend. What about us?
What do you mean, us?
They now have the capacity for thought, for speech, to look upon the nature of their existence and be horrified at what they have become. When Dr. Robert Bolton doesn't show up for work, his colleagues are worried about him. He works as a college professor, which is the most DILF job you can have. But Dr. Paradigm is like, call his sons and tell them to go to the old nuclear power plant.
Tell them their father wants them to meet him at the old nuclear power plant on I-18 in 15 minutes.
He does?
A perfectly normal place to meet your dad. Lena is worried.
Just make the call, Lena, and cancel all my appointments for the day. I have to go.
That's Dr. Bolton's watch.
But not worried enough.
Man, I wouldn't trust that guy. That dude's weird.
Now we get the best exchange in the entire episode.
I know Ben's, but he's my faculty advisor.
He's my faculty advisor. My hands are tied. Now we meet the Bolton boys one at a time in a way that highlights their unique human characteristics and personalities. First up is John Bolton, who has this entire breakfast setup that's powered by a rat. So take that, Ratatouille. We see Bobby rollerblading, but they don't actually work his name into any of the dialogue, unless I just missed it. Coop wears this very normal and non-sexy outfit to play regular American football. And Clint is sleeping. Some of the brothers race in this insane way to try to get to the power plant first. But then we've got John on his motorcycle with his helmet for safety. Dr. Paradigm comes out to meet them, and the boys are immediately suspicious of him.
That's Dad's watch.
Such a generous creature.
No way. Mom gave it to him.
What are you doing with it?
He'd never give it away.
What have you done with him?
They are smart and strong, like their very attractive father, who I assume is a widower and thus single. Anyway, Dr. Paradigm calls on his mutant goons to grab the boys, and now he has more test subjects for his experiments. The boys are cuffed to operating tables and just kind of snarking at each other.
Bobby, you with us? Tell me it was just that 2-pound bean burrito I ate last night.
And Dr. Paradigm's like, aren't you concerned about any of this? 'Cause, like, you're not in a good situation here.
Aren't you at all curious what's going to happen to you?
No, because we're getting out of here.
What is he gonna do with us?
And they're not in a good situation. The Gene Slammer injects them with that fluorescent green serum from extremely large needles as they scream and writhe in pain. It's horrifying. If this were live action instead of animation, it would not be for children. Dr. Paradigm thinks that he's just killed them, so he tells his minions, like, just go dump the bodies somewhere. Like, I don't care, wherever.
What should we do with them? Just get them out of my sight.
And they do.
Here's as good as anywhere.
But the boys wake up seemingly fine, so they decide to go to the park and get some burgers from a burger cart. I mean, my first thought would be to, like, call the police and tell them about the kidnapping and the drooling lobster creature, but priorities, I guess. And now we get a second, even more grotesque sequence where the boys begin to transform.
My hands!
Their bodies are mutating into creatures. Half shark, half man. I've heard that somewhere before. Their bones are contorting as the shark features almost burst forth from within their human skin. Sharp teeth protruding from their fleshy gums. Coops is the worst somehow. Like, this whole scene is pure body horror. It's like Tusk for children. Their design is also terrifying. Like, they don't look friendly despite having their same 90s cool guy voices. And how do they talk with their mouths like that?
Lighten up, guys. Maybe it's not all bad.
They eat the burger guy's food cart, and he watches in horror as his livelihood is consumed right in front of him. The cops show up, and our sharks need to get off the street. They don't have the suave and gentlemanly demeanor of the Wild West cowboys of Moo Mesa, or the friendly and approachable vibes of the Battletoads. So yeah, I would try to shoot them on sight. Despite diving into the water, we see the sharks swimming through concrete, approaching a car crash site. I didn't watch Street Sharks as a kid, but I know that I've seen it, especially after watching it now, because a lot of the visuals are very familiar to me, particularly this whole swimming through concrete thing. They save this woman who is trapped in her car and about to die in a fiery explosion, but they also eat pieces of her car and terrify her so badly that she loses consciousness. And then when she does come to, she screams and runs away.
Sharks! Help!
Something tells me that this city does not have the resources in their roadwork budget to continuously repair the damage that the street sharks do to major roadways and sidewalks over the course of this series. Taxes are going to go up. And this is why. They run into one of their dad's colleagues named Benz, and Peacock's closed captioning kept calling him Benz, B-E-N-Z, but that is not correct. Here is about where I notice that the street sharks have very ripped abs. The screaming woman just appears again. Like, I guess she ran away from the crash site, and then the street sharks swam away, and then they just, like, randomly ran into each other again. She's never mentally gonna recover from this. This episode has a lot of people yelling, "Sharks!" Like we're at a beach. So Benz somehow gets all of them into his car. How? Look at this scene of them in the back. The vehicle looks huge. And here it is from the outside. Is this a TARDIS situation? The sharks buckle their seatbelts for safety while going on a police car chase. They hide in a billboard. How? I don't exactly know, but this is a show that features essentially reverse mermen who can bite through metal, but Paradigm finds them.
That's weird. Since when do they let sharks in the amusement park?
Sharks?
How do you even have a concept for what an amusement park is? You only gained sentience like 2 days ago.
A little mayhem will scare them into submission. Believe me, I know about intimidation.
How? Were you like the war general lobster? Like you led your lobster clan in a fierce turf war against another lobster clan? Just fighting over the richest fields of phytoplankton? Or does having the DNA of a Mongolian conqueror who lived like 800 years ago somehow give you his memories? They end up at the amusement park where Benz gives the street sharks their name during a conversation with like a random child. The scene only lasts a few seconds and seemingly only exists for this reason.
We're opening a new ride, the Street Sharks.
Wow, they look almost real.
Street sharks.
Street sharks? I like it. I like it.
The sharks fight against Lobster Slash and Dr. Paradigm in a battle that destroys most of the amusement park. Then the military shows up with tanks, which I do feel is an appropriate response, and they surround the street sharks. And that's the end of the first episode. So technically the first season is only 3 episodes, but to me that just means that the first episode is a 3-parter. So I am going to run through the other 2 episodes, but I'll try to go like a little bit quicker. Episode 2, the sharks are captured and taken to a lab, and Dr. Paradigm publicly blames their condition on their father.
This is Dr. Bolton's work. What kind of monster would do this to his own sons? Well, shall we move on to the exploratory surgery?
He's going to do some exploratory surgery, but Lena betrays her faculty advisor, and she helps the sharks escape.
Let's put on sharks. Great whites are always hungry.
They are legit going to kill and eat Dr. Paradigm.
Scalpel! You're crazy. Will you settle for this?
Before the cops show up with like laser guns. Is this show supposed to take place in the future, but like the not too distant future? Because there's this thing where the radio announcer guy keeps talking about all of the smog and the pollution, and there's this advanced technology and the genetic research, and people don't really seem to be like batting an eye at it. And now the cops have laser guns. So I tried to look it up, but I couldn't really find anything. Anyway, they escape again with Benz and Lena, and Benz leads them to this underground lair. But it's not like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because these are steam tunnels and not the sewer.
Think this is a story about 4 animals turning into fun-loving teens? Think again! It's about 4 teens who turn into animals!
This episode, it's revealed that the sharks don't like pizza.
Pizza okay?
Pizza?
How about burgers and shakes, okay?
I feel like this is a direct call out to Ninja Turtles. Like, no, we're not a rip-off of that other show. The turtles like pizza, And the sharks hate pizza. They're totally different.
And if you're waiting for the street sharks to eat pizza or mention liking pizza, well, buddy, I hope you don't have somewhere to be, that it's gonna be a long wait.
You like hamburgers!
And hot dogs.
Unique character alert! Unique character.
During another scuffle, Paradigm kidnaps Benz and tries to gene slam him with a piranha, but the sharks bust in and Paradigm ends up injecting himself. There's another body horror transformation sequence. Now, with his power suit and piranha DNA, Paradigm is able to fight off the street sharks. I can't stop looking at his mouth as he talks. I don't like it, and I don't like looking at it, but I can't look away. So he is about to genetically redesign the sharks to eliminate those pesky human emotions and make them compliant to only him. The sharks are trapped. They'll never get out. They can never escape. And the episode ends. Episode 3, they escape. They have a surprise news interview, and it doesn't go well.
Tell me about your day. How's it feel having your own flesh and blood turn you into, well, sharks? Hey, what are you doing?
Lena tries to call the reporter and clarify the situation, kind of, because the reporter asks if their dad didn't do this to them, who did?
If Bolton didn't do it, who did?
I have to go.
And Lena, instead of saying, Dr. Paradigm did this, he is a mad scientist who definitely did this, she decides to go with the much more vague, start with Dr. Paradigm.
I'll give you a hint, Einstein. Start with Dr. Paradigm.
So Dr. Paradigm holds a formal press conference in his power suit, and he has some really solid talking points. He does way better than the street sharks did. He probably had media training.
They don't want to believe their beloved father did this to them. What happened to these boys is a tragedy, but that doesn't mean they're not dangerous.
Meanwhile, Slobster and Slash dress up as the street sharks. We have a mutated lobster and swordfish disguising themselves as half man, half shark creatures. Let all that sink in. And they stage a series of crimes and robberies. I will say the show is funny. There are a lot of little jokes that I'm leaving out because they don't really contribute to the plot. When they go to the lair, they get mad and they eat the TV. And then later they get mad again and they go to destroy the TV. And Benz is like, hey, stop it. Stop with the TV thing. We're gonna go through too many TVs.
You're going. Oops. Sorry.
Guys, you gotta get a handle on this thing with the TV.
Some of the jokes are just a little bit cheesy.
That's how the coaster crumbles.
But it's fine. No one's really demanding high-level comedy from street sharks. Anyway, there's a radiation leak, and the street sharks end up saving the city from essentially turning into the next Chernobyl. But no one is grateful.
Those street sharks caused this radiation leak. Got them in plain sight. Looking pretty pleased with themselves, too.
However, Lena is able to send some security footage to the news to show that the street sharks were not conducting those robberies.
You're right. That thing looks more like a lobster.
Does it? Paradigm turns into Dr. Piranha and escapes, and the sharks notice that tends to happen when he gets angry.
Every time Dr. Paradigm gets mad, he turns into paranoid.
They call him Paranoid, and that's the actual name, but I just like saying Dr. Piranha. He wants to turn a bunch of people into monsters using airborne mutated DNA, but the street sharks are able to redirect a smart bomb and save the day. The end. Or is it? I mean, it's definitely not, because there's a lot more episodes. Also, spoiler warning for a show that's almost 30 years old. The street sharks' search for their hot father, Dr. Robert Bolton, is the overarching plot line of the series, and apparently they never find him. The boys never get to see their dad again, and we don't get to find out what kind of monster he turned into and if I'm still attracted to him. Real quick sidebar here, there is a character that appears later in the series called Moby Lick, and there is something fundamentally vulgar about Moby Lick.
Yes, my most perfect creation yet. I think I'll call you Moby Lick.
This is a minor character who was created by Dr. Paradigm by gene slamming one of Clint's friends with an orca. And Moby Lick is initially a villain because he's under mind control serum, but he's able to overcome the mind control and become a powerful ally. His whole thing is having a super long, flexible tongue, and he utilizes his blowhole.
Tell you what, let's see what I can do with the old blowhole.
I don't know. I mean, look at the action figure. Street Sharks also introduced the Dino Vengers, who got their own toy line and spin-off. The spin-off, called Extreme Dinosaurs, lasted for 50 episodes, which is more than the Street Sharks got.
Something's really rocking on planet number 3. Modern man's got prehistoric company.
I don't know how that happened.
A colossal fossil view, unlike anything before, between the reckless raptors and the extreme dinosaurs.
In 2021, there were 3 new Street Sharks action figures that were released into the world. While the action figures were new, the designs were actually character concepts from the original series that just never got used, which I think is really interesting. I like hearing about what almost was with TV shows. It's kind of like getting a little peek into an alternate reality, and I think that taking those character designs and making them into action figures is a really unique concept. I can feel it and hear it. I'm losing my voice. I'd like to point out that one of the characters is named Carcass, and I get it. It's supposed to be a play on the word carcass, like Carcass, but I can't see or pronounce it any other way than Carcass, which just sounds like a weird insult. Apparently, Carcass was intended to be the original villain before Dr. Paradigm. He was a teen who was gene slammed with a piranha. In case you were wondering, yes, there are a handful of Street Sharks fanfics out there, although most of them are crossovers. But one crossover, and I promise, I did not write this. You're going to think I did, but I didn't. So one fanfic is a Street Sharks Twilight crossover. It's a romance between Bella and Streaks, and yes, I read all 5 chapters. Street Sharks also has an active subreddit. They post a lot of old toys and other merch. There's also some pretty good fan art. Now, for the ultimate thesis statement of this video, I think the time is right for a Street Sharks live-action reboot movie. Yes, it would need a lot of CGI, but they could do it. And I would want it set in the 90s, just exactly the same as the original cartoon. Do not update the content. Do not update the tone. The natural horror of Street Sharks juxtaposed against the 90s cool guy vibe is your greatest asset. The overarching plot would obviously be the search for their hot dad. I'm picturing Henry Cavill. That's my fan cast for Dr. Robert Bolton. I feel like someone is gonna get mad at me for over-sexualizing Dr. Bolton. And it's calm down. He's a cartoon character. I'm not actually sure if that makes it better or worse. And the end credit song for the movie would be performed by Michael Bolton.
Now back to the good part.
I don't think the Street Sharks movie is an unrealistic ask, because do you know who owns Street Sharks? Mattel. And Mattel is planning to ride the Barbie movie high for years. Mattel plans to make a Polly Pocket movie, a Barney the Dinosaur movie, a Magic 8-Ball movie, and we need to let them know that they're on the right track, but none of those are gonna be their next hit. Street Sharks. It's bold, it's nostalgic, it's perfect. But no, they want to make a Hot Wheels movie. Hot Wheels! Ah yes, that classic franchise with its beloved character. Car. Mattel, if you do not drop everything and make Street Sharks your next live-action blockbuster, you are fools. I'm not the only one who thinks this, because the franchise came up recently at Comic-Con. 2024 is the 30th anniversary of the series, so they're going to have to plan something JAWSOME. 30th is the Pearl anniversary, which pearls come from mollusks, which are a sea creature. So, your move, Mattel. I'll lend you my wristbands. Streaks picked up Bella and held her to his chest gingerly, yet the passion of his hug was evident. Bella leaned into his soft, rubbery skin and just breathed in his scent, one similar to the ocean after a fresh rain. As he put her back down, she noticed he was looking at her wistfully. "Streaks, what's the matter?" "I'm sorry. Nothing's the matter. I'm just so used to being treated like a monster. I was almost starting to think I was one. You're the first person who's treated me just like any other guy." By the way, Streaks and Edward do cross paths, and there is the tension of rivalry between them. Who do you think would win in a fight between the Street Sharks and the Cullens? Answer in the comments below.